Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are in this version of the Mesilas Yesharim. It's inverted over here, sorry. I don't know if you can see it. It's the Feldheim edition of, it's on page 159. I think we've been on the same page for about 3 months now.
We're learning it deeply.
Okay. So he's talking, we're in the middle of chapter 22, or really getting close to the end now, chapter 22, on humility. And the Ramchal brings the example of the famous Torah scholar who had immense humility, famous for his Hillel, famous for humility, Hillel. And in reference to Hillel, when telling of his great humility in Tractate Shabbat, they said the rabbis taught one should always be as humble as Hillel. And Rabbi Abahu, with all his humility, still did not find himself worthy of being called humble. And this is what they said. Rabbi Abahu said, I used to consider myself a humble person. When I saw Rabbi Abba from Akko publicly explain something only to have his interpreter explain it differently, and he did not show any anger, I said to myself, I am not a humble person. Right? Now that's going to be somewhat frustrating. In the good old days, this is before the internet, before megaphones and things like that. The rabbi would stand in the center on a hill or an elevated position, and he had around him people who would, like he couldn't broadcast his voice to thousands of people. Thousands of people would be showing up for these classes. Amazing. And so he couldn't speak that loudly. So he would have the people around him. He would tell the idea, and then they would go and broadcast the concept to everybody else. So one of his broadcasters changed the message. Seemingly, he did a better job, right? And Rabbi Abahu, he was astonished at this, that he didn't get upset at him, because this is totally anti-protocol. You don't do things like that. You can imagine, for instance, you write a book, and the publisher, the Feldheim or Ask or whatever it is, changed the script, rewrote it for you. It'll be kind of tough, right? So so that's what he did. So he wasn't upset at all. So why wasn't he upset? Why wasn't he upset? Don't answer all at once. He wasn't upset because humility is not, Rav Nachman always used to say, what's the definition of humility? Is the truth is more important than me. So when everybody was, when the message that people were getting was was more correct than what he was saying, that's great. I don't care. I don't remember the names. I'm sorry, but there's a quite famous story of it's happened after the war in New York. It was after the war. Finding good rabbis was tough. There were a handful of people who could teach properly, and there's one rabbi. He used to give a phenomenal shiur, and some other rabbi would come in, listen to the shiur, and then teach his ideas as his own. And one of the students said to the Rebbe, this guy's coming in and he's stealing all your Torah thoughts, and using it for other people and not giving you any credit. So the rabbi family said, I don't have a problem with him telling my ideas in his name, but I would have a problem if he said his ideas in my name. In other words, the point is that, it's all, Rav Nachman used to say that a rabbi is just a glorified waiter. You go to a fancy restaurant, right? And they serve you a phenomenal dinner. And it's like, ooh, it's phenomenal, right? And who do you thank? Who do you praise? The waiter. You go, and that was amazing. Like now and again, very, very rarely you say, I need to speak to the chef and thank him personally. I'm sure that happens. In movies it happens, but I don't know how much it really happens in real life. Right? But uh who do you when you have a nice meal, who do you thank? The waiter. What did the waiter do?
Served it.
What?
Just served it.
You told him I want pizza. He went to the kitchen, said 2 for pizza. The chef who makes all the pizza, he made the pizza. Extra pepperoni, right? Obviously, half cheese or whatever it happens to be, right? Right? Whatever the pizza is, right? I want not too much on the spices, not a lot of mushrooms, right? And the waiter tells the chef, and the chef is the one who does all the work, and he brings out the pizza. Go, oh, that was an amazing pizza. What did the waiter do? Right? See, you have a problem. I don't know how to, my kids, my work, my pain in the neck, my neighbors, my rabbi, whatever happens there, you go to the rabbi, and say, what do I do? The rabbi, right, he looks up a book, kids. It says here, right, this is what you do, right? We're not giving over. A good rabbi is not giving over his own ideas. A bad rabbi is giving over his own ideas. A good rabbi is not giving over his own ideas. He's giving over the Torah. He's just a glorified waiter. He brings God's Torah, goes to the kitchen, says, I've got 2 people in the front here that have problems with their kids. Can you send me some ideas? Right? Your waiter's here. Tell them this. Right? You come out, you say, here, this is what the Torah says. And they go, oh, that's really good. You're smart. No, just read what it said in the manual. You can read it too. You get it? We're just glorified waiters. Okay, you don't get it.
We get it. I don't know if we're so comfortable with that thought, though. I mean, I don't feel so comfortable because I feel like a rabbi does a little more than just read the Torah and tell you what's in it. Like
that's
they
marketing.
often.
That's marketing.
Okay, fine. It's marketing.
But the rabbi also looks at the person and decides what message from the Torah they would best serve them.
Yeah, it's like the other way, not too heavy on the spicy. I know they said spicy, but I know this couple, he can't handle the spicy, lay off on the spicy. So she says, okay, I'll lay off on the spicy,
If it was really such an easy job, more people would do it, no?
A lot of people doing it. The easy bit is the difficult bit is just getting out of the way. That's the difficult bit. So that's what the rabbi was saying. It's not about me. I'm only delivering God's Torah. As long as God's Torah is being delivered, and when you go upstairs, and is God going to say, you didn't put your name on that article? I don't know. I can't give you any credit for it. I know thousands of people read it and they learned a lot from it. Like the Orcha Tzadikim, you heard of the Orcha Tzadikim, the way of the righteous, phenomenal. Like you can't even put words to it. Right? It's written in I believe the 1100s anonymously. So whoever wrote it, he's upstairs right now, right? 1100s. I assume he's upstairs right now, right? So the voice is going, listen, I know you wrote this book, and you know you wrote this book, but no one else knows you wrote that book. So how can I give you a star? How can I give you a reward for it? You understand?
Why can't he give him a reward?
I'm joking. Of course he can. You don't need to have your name on it. That's what the Bible is saying. I don't need my name on the Torah. Right? Like if I tell you a piece of Torah, you go, "Oh, that's a clever idea," right? So I don't need my name on it. The Almighty knows who said it. He's going to give me credit. I'm not getting away with anything.
You just want to be the medium, if you can, for the truth.
That's right. I want to be the medium. Right? What he got upset about is if he said his Torah in my name, because that would bring me discredit, because he's an idiot. This guy who's teaching is a fool, because he thinks I'm gonna really do well if I sell genius ideas in somebody else's name. You understand? So he thinks that's a way up. Right? He doesn't realize there's a famous story of Simcha Weinberg tells the story of Rabbi Abahu. So Rabbi Abahu, we have letters from him. He applied for the job as janitor. You need a job, right? Apply for the job of janitor. So Rabbi Abahu. Now, in many times in Jewish history, there were more than one, what we call a gadol, the greatest rabbi at the time. There was, there's like the big gadol, there's the little gadol, there's people, the gadol are not known so much. It's very common. In Rabbi Abahu's time, he was it. There was no second, there was no third, there was no nothing. It was him, he was it. It happens now and again. When the time of the Chazon Ish was it. So he applied for the job of the janitor of the shul. Local shul needed a janitor, so he applied for the job. You can't say no to the gadol, right? So he got the job, right? So the whole world, Jewish world, put this shul in cherem, excommunicated them for making the gadol the janitor. So they had to fire him. So he wrote a letter to the shul. Says, I don't know what I did wrong. Right? Can you tell me, so I can, next time I go for a job as a janitor, right? There were people who did not know who they were. Now, this is not an accident. In other words, it's not like, it's like the old joke about two beggars are on the street. One says to the other, you know who Warren Buffett is? And they go, Warren Buffett, oh, of course I know Warren Buffett is. If I had Warren Buffett's money, I'd be richer than Warren Buffett. So the other guy says, if you had Warren Buffett, do you know how he's a multi-billionaire, right? How could you be richer than that? He said, well, I'd be Warren Buffett, I'd have his money, and on the side, I would be begging too. Right? Do you understand? Right? If you could be Warren Buffett, you wouldn't need to beg. Not because you have the money, but because there's a lot more better ways of using your time than standing on the street corner with a placard. Right? We understand that. So if Rabbi Abahu, it didn't become Rabbi Abahu, and he was humble on the side. Intrinsic in being Rabbi Abahu is a lack of appreciation of who we are. It's to not see ourselves as anything. It's not to be diminutive. What's the word? Diminutive. Thank you. Diminutive of ourselves. That's my teleprompter. Right? It's not to be diminutive of ourselves, to put ourselves down. It's that they have no appreciation for who we are. Our eyes don't look inwards. We can only see outwards. We really have no idea who we really are. But thinking we know who we really are, that's what gets us into big trouble. And people who do that worse than other people, and it gets them into big trouble. Is this making any sense? I hope so.
Yeah. So other professionals, like a big lawyer, can just say I'm a representative of Hashem for judgment.
Right. All that counts is the truth. That's what Rabbi Abahu is saying. Is that he when you met Rabbi Abba, all he cared about was the truth. Do the students get the ideas right? That's all he cared about. His own ideas he didn't care about. So when you think like that, you have real humility.
And so
so
a doctor can think, I just am transferring over Hashem's ideas, or Hashem's, I'm just transferring over the information of or the actions of Hashem.
Well, it's an interesting point you're making here, right? A doctor all he cares about is the patient. That's all he cares about. Whether I'm right or he's right, you're in the medical world. How many doctors do you know that it's not about the patient, it's about them?
Don't answer that question as your lawyer. I'm telling you not to answer that question.
Right? We've all met those kind of. I remember my daughter had to have brain surgery, right? And so we were given a list of the top, forget the exact number, 4 or 5 specialists. It was a very specialized, procedure. So we had to go visit these doctors to decide who we're going to be, and some of them really, really thought very highly of themselves, right? And the guy we finally picked on was regarded as the best, right? So we're talking to him, and we're asking him, what's the procedure, right? And he's just going through the whole thing, like a matter of fact, we do this, and we put this, and we do this, and blah, 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 blah. And Rav Noch, he always used to say, nothing personal. So my best friends are doctors. But he used to say, like rabbis are just glorified waiters. He used to say, doctors are just glorified plumbers. Right? That's what you say. You just got tubing, and you go put this tube with that tube, and if the tubing wears out, you put a new tube in. It's just good. It's like the old joke about the guy who goes into a surgeon who goes into have his engine fixed. So the mechanic, he says, what's the difference between you and me? You've got an engine. The human body is an engine, right? And I've got an engine too. Right? I got to change the parts and fix the thing. And the surgeon says, yes, but you work on it when the engine's off. I have to work on the engine when it's on. It'd be a lot easier to work on a human body. You just turn the whole thing off, and then you connect the kidneys with the things, and that, but you can't do that, right? So, but anyway, so the surgeon who's doing the brain surgery, right, he's explained the whole thing. And he was a great guy. I mean, really humble. And this is the big reason we picked him. He's explained the whole thing. And I said to him, sort of like, wasn't really thinking. I said to him, it's sort of just like tubing, like just, there's plumbing, And my wife said, no, this is brain surgery. She understood, like, don't insult the guy,
He say?
He was totally nonplussed. It was it's just tubing. That's all it is. That's all it is. He wasn't fazed at all. He did not take the slightest bit of insult. Great guy. We could call him any time. He'd answer any questions. He was just totally. We had to go back, and it was wonderful person.
Jewish?
No, not Jewish. Not Jewish.
Oh, wow.
Considering the kind of training they get where they sort of abuse them a little bit, it's actually a real testament that he stayed a nice guy.
Yeah. Right. But you don't get to be the greatest in that particular field if you into yourself. We met other guys, other surgeons who were like completely into themselves and were not open to questioning or anything. They were just, we said, this is not our guy. It's remarkable. But it's not just, you don't have to be a brain surgeon. It's our own success too, right? Avraham Avinu, he brings this example down. says, I'm dust and ashes. David said, I'm a worm. Right? Moshe said, what am I? Nothing. What am I? Right? It's appreciating that we are nothing. Life is, there's a very big point. There's really, it ties into the beginning, the opening chapter, but it's a very important point that we give our children jigsaw puzzles. Let's use jigsaw puzzles as an example, right? Now, why do we do such things? Right? Just give them the picture. It's a beautiful picture, right, of a landscape or Rembrandt or whatever it happens to be. You follow? The earth, the country, right? You follow? And we chop it up into tiny little pieces and go put it back together again. Why do we do that? Why don't we just give them the picture? Isn't this crazy?
Then it's not as challenging and fun to put it back together.
But what's the point? The point isn't to put it back together again. The point is to teach them how to think so they can put it back together again. In other words, putting a jigsaw puzzle together requires discipline, thought, planning, strategy, all kinds of different things that are implicit in a jigsaw puzzle that the kid has to learn, and it's healthy for them to do it. Putting together the puzzle is really, the final completion is really not the point whatsoever. Right? You understand? Now, you give them a jigsaw puzzle, can they do brain surgery? Of course not. Right? The gap between jigsaw puzzle and brain surgery is miles apart. Right? We give them the jigsaw puzzle because we want to teach them how to think. We're not being cruel, we're helping them. The Almighty's doing the same for us. The problems we have are not to solve the problem. The problem's a piece of cake. You got the Gaza Strip, for instance. Let's just take the one that's going on at the moment, right? God can strike dead all of the Hamas in one fell swoop. They're not a problem for him, right? We understand that, right? You understand? Right? So why do we have to go through it? Not because to get to the end. The end is the easy bit. It's because to teach us how to work together and think about it and all the other things that it's teaching us to do in the process. You follow? It's the same as the jigsaw puzzle. The Almighty gives us a jigsaw puzzle. Now you think because you can solve a jigsaw puzzle, you can do brain surgery? Of course not. When the problem you're given is a tiny aspect of the greater problems of life. We've got a very small, relative to the problems life can bring upon a human being. A jigsaw puzzle represents less than 0.1%. It's a nothing problem. Just because you can solve an jigsaw puzzle doesn't mean you can figure out whether interest rates should go up or down or not. Right? You understand? The Almighty gives us problems as a tiny percentage of all the failures that can possibly happen in life. We only see a very small percentage. The mistake people make is, I solved the jigsaw puzzle, now I'm a genius. Oh, we got rid of Hamas in Gaza Strip, now we're geniuses. No. You just solved a very small, tiny piece that made you think about life in a different way and brought you to the next level. But you have no clue how life works. That's how we should be thinking, right? But what do people do? You see this with doctors. You see this with businessmen. You see this with rabbis, right? They build up a congregation. Now they've got 200 people, 200-member congregation. Now they're a big shot. Oh, I know how to run the country. I know how, like, if only the Prime Minister of Israel should listen to me, because I've got a show of 250 people. I'm like a big shot. I know what I'm doing. You follow? It's like you solved a tiny little problem. God gave you a jigsaw puzzle. Build a community of 250 members. You did it. You solved a tiny little jigsaw puzzle. We've all got jigsaw puzzles. We've all got problems in our lives that we've solved over the years. Those are the problems the Almighty gave us. We don't know anything. We don't know anything else. Everything else should be like, I have no idea. We don't know. We just have a tiny little problem. That's how we should be thinking. When you think like that, you realize like how much we don't know, and you're open to everything else. Making sense?
So you're saying basically that when we are inside the mentality of we know more than we actually do, that's the sort of like the block to humility.
That's exactly right.
Why do we get stuck in this belief? I mean, you know, if you're in tune with reality, it should be quite clear to you that you don't know everything.
That's right, 100%. It's very easy to see in other people. You know, when you're talking to other people, complete village idiots who think they know everything about life. But all they've got is a very small problem. It's a big problem. You see this with businessmen, you see it with doctors, you see it with rabbis. They become lousy fathers, mothers, everything else in life. You know, there's a great book called The Prime Ministers. It's a really phenomenal book. I forget who wrote it, but he goes from, I think, Golda Meir all the way through to Menachem Begin. And very insightful. He was the advisor, or the chief of staff, or whatever it was in the prime minister's office. He had first-hand view of all these people and the stuff behind the scenes. And he tells this story of Rabin that after in Entebbe, there was a delegation of American businessmen who came over to Israel and to sort of like congratulate Rabin on his success, because Entebbe was a phenomenal success. And Rabin didn't have any time for these people. They were all like egomaniac, or not all, but a significant number. We're big shots, you know, and he didn't have time for it, because you can't compare running a business. A guy starts a business with nothing and turns it into a multi-billion-dollar business. You know, he thinks he's a genius. He's no genius. When it comes to business, your choices are very limited. You could buy here, sell there. There are choices to make, and there's a tremendous amount of luck that goes into them. You buy at the right time, sell at the right time. All kinds of different things happen, right? So there's no small thing, but nevertheless, it's sort of like, you know, it's like an open heart surgeon, right? If you don't know what you're doing, your chances of getting it right are very, very slim, right? You've got to know exactly what you're doing, but your choices are very limited. You've got a few choices to make, right? The same thing in business is maybe even more limited. You've got a few choices to make. The Prime Minister of Israel got a lot more choices to make. You know, I'm not saying it's also limited choices, and the Almighty's with him, and you've got to be very humble, etc., etc. But don't compare the two, the business. So one guy wrote in the, you know, so Rabin kind of got out of the party early and excused himself, and these businessmen left, and they wrote notes in the guest book, and one of them wrote, he said, I run a business of, forget how many numbers of hundreds of people. If you ever need advice on running your country, give me a call. Exactly.
Well, but what you're saying, I mean, what I'm hearing, I guess would be a better way to put it, is that we'll solve a small problem, a jigsaw puzzle, whatever, which, by the way, I can't do, so I'm not sure what that means about me. But anyway, we'll solve some small little problem. But does that mean that, I mean, and so we learn how to do it. Say we learn how to do it. You're not me, you can solve a jigsaw puzzle. Well, okay, so yay. But I mean, does that mean that every problem in your life is going to be a jigsaw puzzle? And so even though you learn that, how applicable is that to anything else in your life?
it may not be applicable to anything else in your life. You can solve a jigsaw. That's the problem that people make. It's a very big problem with business people, for instance. They make this business from nothing to $1 billion, and now they think they're a big shot, and everyone around them thinks they're a big shot because they surround themselves with yes people. And then they go home and their kids don't listen to them. And they don't know, because in business, you got, a very limited, I'm not saying it's binary, but there are a very limited number of choices. You buy, you sell, you invest here, you don't invest here. You've got the choices in front of you. When dealing with your children, there's no choices in front of you. You have to figure out the child and what his needs are, where he's holding, and all the variations of possibilities that could be thinking about, and how to talk to him, and the tone you're talking to him, and suggest different things. You said that the businessman is used to making binary decisions, and relatively speaking, getting them right most of the time or some of the time. And he feels good about that. So he thinks he knows what he's doing, and he comes to his kids, and it doesn't work like that. And he doesn't have the humility to go, I don't know what I'm doing. But in business, he has that experience. I always like to compare it to riding a bicycle. When it comes to riding a bicycle, the reason kids get on the bicycle is they think they know how to ride the bicycle. But as soon as they get on, they realize they don't know how to ride a bike. There's a great video called The Backwards Bicycle. You can Google it, YouTube it, look it up on YouTube, called The Backwards Bicycle. And what this is, an engineer, I forget his name. I don't think it was Mark Rober. Forget his name. He's a scientist, geeky kind of guy. He's got some great videos, but his engineers engineered a bicycle so that when you turn the handlebars to the right, to turn right, the wheel went to the left, right? And vice versa. So he used to take this on talks, this bicycle, and no one could ride the bicycle. It was impossible. Everyone thinks they could ride the bicycle, but they can't ride the bicycle. And I've seen the video enough times to realize, when I first saw it, I go, oh, I could do that, and realize that I probably couldn't. I haven't done it, but I probably could not ride this bicycle. Your brain is wired a certain way. So when you go so what he did was he set himself up a challenge every day for a few minutes every day for about, I think it took him 10 months. He got on this bicycle, and after 10 months, he finally did it, right? And he had to rewire his brain to turn to the right, to go left, etc., etc. It's not that he went from one day not riding the bicycle to one day riding the bicycle. Every day, again, it's the jigsaw puzzle. Every day, he was training his thinking to think differently. So, and each day was just incrementally small. The same as riding any bicycle. When you get on a bicycle, you don't ride it the first time. You don't ride it the second time. You ride it the third time. But eventually, you trained your brain. You can't tell the difference. You can't tell when you learn to ride the bicycle. You know you did when you ride it, but it wasn't that moment. The time, a little bit before that, you learn how to do it. You can't tell incrementally you've learned how to ride the bicycle. That's the puzzles of life are teaching you to think differently. Riding the bicycle is teaching you to think differently. This is a famous statement. It's at the end of Mesilas, at the end of my book on Mesilas. Yeah, got this book. I should get this book. Oh, if you can see it in there. Okay, can't see it. Okay, it's called The Hidden Books of the Mesilas. There's a whole story in there at the end of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, he said this famous, what made Rabbi Akiva? He saw the water on the well, the water on the hole. Well, the water dripping on rock made a hole. And he realized, Rav Nach explains, he realized that it wasn't the first drop that made the hole. It wasn't the second. Each drop made a little bit of a difference. After 5 years, you see the hole. It means every drop every time you got on the bicycle, it made a difference in your thinking. And that's what he realized. Every time you learn Torah, every time, you read it and go, I don't remember it. It doesn't get anywhere. I don't get it. Every time, you think you didn't get anywhere, but it's not true. You did get somewhere. It changed you. It changed the way you think about life. The problem is it's just giving up. In other words, you drop the water on the rock and then you stop doing it, you're not going to see anything. You have to keep doing it every single day. You have to keep learning every single day, and it will change your thinking.
Can I ask you about that? Because I'm wondering, someone who seems to be very much into the Torah and, is very eager to learn it, and yet seems to have certain character flaws. Like, why hasn't the Torah, affected that? Like, why hasn't his Torah learning affected those character flaws?
Well, it has. It just, again, it's like the bicycle. You don't necessarily see it until, one day, boom, something happens, and it's a completely different person. You don't see it at the time.
Okay, so then let me ask you a different question. Can a person who is extremely arrogant, who then goes in and learns the Torah, will the Torah have an impact on him? Because he starts out like he's arrogant. So if he's arrogant, then he's not really thinking the Torah can do anything for, what could the Torah tell me? I already know so much.
You don't have to go to such extreme examples. I can include myself, We've all got stuff that I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example, right? October the 7th, we're all familiar with it now, right? Now, we're all familiar with the Holocaust, right? But the Holocaust, people asked the question after the Holocaust, where was God? Nobody is asking that question after October 7th. Because the Holocaust, people asked the question, but they were asking the question really seriously. The Jewish world was asking the question. And on various levels, they got an answer. We're a different people. We've gone through the jigsaw puzzle, the Holocaust, and now we're at a different level. October the 7th was a tremendous tragedy, but no one's asking where is God. It's affected us. The most secular Jew on the planet, nevertheless, didn't ask that question. Where was God? It had an impact. Making sense?
I think I'm understanding, but let me see if I could ask another question to see if I can really grasp this. What about an individual who is very controlling and uses the Torah to continue that controlling behavior, but now from a place of superior righteousness?
Well, the Ramchal says the only person who's not going to be affected by the Torah is people who are teaching it or learning it for the sake of for prestige. It's their job. And you saw that in the Jewish world, various groups, Reform, Conservative, they use the Torah as an instrument. They didn't teach it or learn it because they wanted to know. They just used it as to impress people and things like that. That's a lowly shema that doesn't get you anywhere. But if someone's
how do you help someone like that? How does someone like that get helped?
Yeah, that's a toughie. There you got me. That's hard. It's hard. Yeah. Those people are very hard.
So you're saying if the Torah is used as a tool or a weapon or anything like that, then really the Torah is not going to impact that individual.
Right. That's right. Seemingly.
Okay. Everything else, all other character traits, can be improved by learning Torah.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Thank you for that clarity.
So
you're very welcome.
So Rabbi,
go ahead.
So a person, a rabbi, doctor, whatever profession, their mindset could be each each difficulty or puzzle I'm having is not meaning that I'm a greater professional, greater rabbi, businessman, doctor. It does each little hurdle does not mean I'm a greater person. It's just another gift from Hashem to gain a greater understanding of his world.
Exactly. It's just like you give your kids a Lego set. Right? Oh, I get the Lego set. I sold the Lego set. I built a castle. Right? Very nice. What does that mean? It just means you got a Lego set. You build it, you understand? Your Rav Noch used to say like this. He would say, you go talk to a friend, right? He says, the friend says to you, I'm a big tzaddik. He says, really? Why? He says, well, this morning I was very depressed and I took a knife and I was about to kill myself. And I grabbed my arm, I pushed it down, and I stopped myself. I'm such a tzaddik. I saved a human being. And my arm came back up, and I pushed it down. It was on 15 minutes. And finally, I threw the knife away. I'm okay. Right? You go, you're nuts. Oh, Larry's here. Hey, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
My Hebrew class just ended.
Oh, okay.
It ran late because the teacher had computer problems.
Oh.
Gee, no one knows about those.
Yeah, we've been talking about problems. Right, so the guy, he said, that's the puzzles of life. All the problems we have is like, you used to say, you got a brain, you take all the supercomputers in the world, you stick them all together, right, it would not equal 1% of human brain activity. You got a brain that's like super duper super, right, supercomputer, like the most impressive thing, and you figured out a Lego puzzle, right? Oh, okay, you didn't kill yourself this morning. What do you want? Right? You turn the brain on. That's all you have to do. Turn it on. You woke up. It's like you can't figure out how to make a living. You can't figure out how to cure somebody. It's just we're just doing what comes naturally. Just like a cheetah runs, an eagle can soar. A human being thinks. This is what we do. What are you taking credit for?
Does the fact that, and I know I've heard you say this often, that our brains can do so much more than we actually use them for?
100%.
So does that,
personally now,
instead of my saying, why did Hashem give us that capacity if we're not using it? Then how about why have we not been able to tap into that?
Oh, that's a great question. Why don't we? I mean, listen. Part of the problem is we go to school. Nothing personal. So I send my kids to school, but you send the kids to school. What you're essentially doing is you're saying you're no different than that. How can a teacher teach a kid? This kid with this kid. They're different kids. Every kid's different. Every human being's different. The way the Torah says to teach your children is to homeschool them. That's how you should teach the kid. That's how you should teach your children, because each child is a different reality, right? So we don't teach our children that. You put them in front of a paid professional. I mean, with all the maybe the best teachers you can get, but you can't compare it to a parent. Can't compare it.
That's a very good answer, because I think, and when I think about it, and we've all been in college at least or other schools, you spit back to the teacher what they want to hear to get you a better grade.
Right.
And they are often, I mean, it's a while ago for me, but they are not very open to other views.
Right. Well, they're not. Then all the problem is they're not teaching kids to think; they're teaching them just to remember.
Well, in law school, to be fair, the first year especially, they do try to teach you to think like a lawyer.
I'm not sure that's a great thing, but
As I have said to many people, especially those with children, being a lawyer gives you very good skills when your child tells you something and then you have to start asking questions to sort of pull out of them what really happened. And then you get to know your children and you know that little Yossi tends to leave out these various parts.
yeah.
And you got to ask about them. And it's like in my work, I do this all the time. I find that the people in my company, most of whom are not lawyers, it's just in my office, they decide, oh, I didn't think you needed to know that. And I find myself asking lots and lots of questions.
Good. Well, that's a good place to start. Very
Like
good.
about
One of the
Citron,
things,
like about etropes.
Oh, okay. We're not going to go down that road.
Inside joke. No, but I got your email. I will follow up with that. We'll
Thank you,
continue
one of the
that.
everybody.
things, one of the things I learned when I was in college was I have a talent for figuring out what the teacher thought was important. And so I would do a lot better on tests than some other people because the teacher would put so much out there in terms of, read 57 books, memorize everything, and then come in and have a test and it's on page 1 or something, like that. Whereas I would usually be able to figure out what the teacher thought was important, and then I would just study that and I blow the rest of it off. And it really served me well as a talent in college. Made my boyfriend, I had a boyfriend once, made him crazy because he was just convinced he was smarter than me. And he probably was. But I made better grades than him because I was better at figuring out the teachers, and he hated that. He just hated that so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll have to try and find him and convince him otherwise.
No, he was right. There was a lot of stuff that he was, he understood that I didn't understand, but I still made better grades just because of that one thing that I was good at that he wasn't, so.
Rabbi,
Yes.
is what you're talking about you referred one time to the end part of Uva L'Tzion, where it said God gives you what he wants you to, what you need, or Baruch.
Yeah, I remember that.
Blessed is God because he gives us
because what I need is different than what Yehiel needs. And Hashem makes sure I have what I need, and Yehiel needs what he needs. I think is that in one of the morning prayers?
yes.
After Ashrei.
After Ashrei.
Oh no, I thought it was in the morning, the Baruchs, all of those, but it's after Ashrei? Okay.
Right. Baruch Elokeinu shebareinu lekvodo. That God created us to honor him. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, is that related to what you're talking about tonight? That that you said that he's only giving you the I guess the challenges, the puzzles that he wants you to approach, or is this
Yeah, no, exactly. Very good. Right. Rav Noach used to talk about that. He used to say, imagine for instance, Einstein is being honored at a convention of Nobel Prize scientists, right? And in the middle of his acceptance speech, he says, listen, I'm nothing except I learned it all from Joe Schmo. Right? Who's Joe Schmo? He's the janitor, right? So everyone's in shock, So we all understand that Einstein wants to give the Joe Schmo a sense of covered. right? So the Almighty too, like he wants to give us a sense of feeling important about ourselves, which is important. That's a meaningful thing, to feel good about ourselves. How do you feel good about it? When you do something meaningful, right? Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg used to say that they did a scientific experiment once where they took minimum wage workers and they put them onto a conveyor belt, and their job was to put nuts on bolts. And then after about half an hour or so, they turned the conveyor belt backwards and they had to take the nuts off the bolts. And they found that didn't matter what they paid them, they wouldn't do it. Like a person has to have a sense that what they're doing is important, does something meaningful for the world. It can't be just putting bolts on, taking them off, putting them on. Even though you're getting paid twice and triple the amount, you got to feel that what you're doing is important. What's really important? Connecting people with the Almighty, bringing God into the world. That's what's really important. That's what the Gaza Strip is all about. Right? Why is this not going to end? Because the Jews understand that despite the idiots at the New York Times, that this is really a meaningful experience. We're teaching the world how to live. You've got your responsibility to humanity. You've got to get rid of these evil people. And therefore it's a meaningful endeavor that they're engaging in. Where the Almighty gives us this problem so we can feel good. In other words, when you're 5 years old, putting together Lego puzzles, it feels good. But you can't do it when you're 35 years old. You've got to do something more substantive. People try. You see Jay Leno collecting silly cars, right? Because they're trying to live, their lifestyle of when they were 10 years old. But it doesn't work. You start to go a little nutty. It's not meaningful.
I was looking up what Yechiel was talking about, and I don't know if this is it, and I don't know where this is from, but the Chasam Sofer Pashas Chukas quotes the Alshich as saying that we are only given in this world what we need to obtain our portion in the world to come. Goes so far as to say, if we do not use what we are given in this world properly, it is as if we stole from our portion in Olam Haba.
That's deep. That's good. I like that. Not sure how it quite connects to what we're talking about. I'm sure it does.
Well, it's what I thought Yechiel was talking about.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you, Larry.
But Rabbi, you notice I didn't flinch when you said something about the idiot New York Times.
Good. We're on the same page there. Excuse the pun.
I have, the rabbi can tell you all, he has seen my views changing in the last few weeks.
Right, we won you over.
Not on everything, mind you, but on a lot.
We got work to do. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you,
Rabbi.
Chag
Thank you.
Sameach.
Take care.
Chanukah Sameach.
Page